This is episode 13. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will tell you that this is a secondary recording of the original show that I put together, and while that's exciting, it's just a shame that the actual show itself didn't get uploaded, but this is going to be fantastic, so I will give you all of that information just the same as I pulled down when I put together the show this morning, just to give you an idea exactly of what I was going into. So this was one of the first things that we had put together this morning. This was a prompt that got into Melrose. So this is going to be most specific for real estate agents, and this is how AI can help you with that. But let's get into some of the different slides, and then we will go through this just so you know exactly how to put this together for you. And also, I did share all of the slides at my particular agency. If you go to Santa Clarita AI.com, SantaClaritaAI.com, you'll see class 13, and this is where I actually put the prompts in, embedded these, so you can see all of these prompts here, and you can move down and look at these different, the different prompts. Now, first off, we're going to talk about the actual GEO, or the geographical engine optimization. That's going to be tied to the AI rendering whenever you're asking for it to create content. Part of the thing that you want to make sure you're seeing is you're seeing all of your content tied to some kind of geographical location. And those are going to be available if you go to Google and search. You can punch in Santa Clarita Artificial Intelligence, for example, and then this will give you that information that you're looking for. And you want to find your business. And once you do find it in the Google places, right, you click on it, and then here you're going to want this link. This is the link that's going to be most important. You want to take this and use it in any content creation on whichever large language model you happen to be using. So when you're using it in here, you want to make sure that it knows it. Now, if you use one of these systems routinely, let's say OpenAI, you should have already put together some kind of a doc that has all of this information in there anyway. You should have it all showing all the time, and it should know the data. So it should have all of your links to your different social media, your Facebook, of course, Instagram, TikTok, all of those. And then it should also have your geolocational tags from your Bing business listing, which you need to have, and also your Google business listing, which you also need to have. It's important to have all of those, so when you are asking it to create content, it can use those local sources, and that gives you validity. In fact, if you're a real estate agent, that validity is going to carry a lot further than if you happen to be a massive syndication real estate website, because they just can't follow like that. And those particular systems have a particular address or location attached to it that's usually corporate in nature, so it's not going to be boots on the ground local businesses like a typical agent could here in this local market, whether it's Santa Clarita or somewhere else. All right, so we're going to show, let me plug this in here real quick, and then we'll move on to the next slide. Now, with regard to what's the next one here, let's see if we can get into this, excuse me. And also, of course, stop hustling harder, start prompting smarter. And I say that because back when we first got into the blogging realm in real estate, early 2000s, 2004, 2005, to be able to create a blog post wasn't difficult, but it was kind of tricky because you had to then ascribe to the SEO, or the search engine optimization. Now, search engine optimization is still relevant in some cases, but most of this that we're talking about now, when you're having content created or you're working with AI to have the best content, it's going to more fall in line with AEO, or answer engine optimized type posts. And the difference is this: with the Ask Jeeves, the different systems, this was kind of a Netscape moment. The Netscape moment is what we saw back in 2023 and the end of 2022 when ChatGPT came online and all of us regular people got access to it. That's a Netscape moment. The original Netscape moment was when Netscape came up with the browser. Of course, Internet Explorer blew past them, but at the very beginning, Netscape was what you use, like Chrome or like Safari. That was the browser you used to see the internet and get on there, and it was just magical. the Netscape moment we had most recently, and there's probably going to be another one that's going to break us out of the entire browser architecture altogether. But that next one was ChatGPT, when us human beings saw what most of us, the text and stuff, they were already playing with it for years. But when we finally got it released to the public in the form of ChatGPT, and then we saw it, it was another what's called a Netscape moment. We're watching these current trends continue to change the entire world. And now when we used to write that blog post using Netscape and logging into WordPress or whatever different systems we had back then, I think WordPress was one of the original, we were finding that in order to trick the search engines or in order to get top placement, all you had to do is basically repeat keyword text over and over again on the page. And then let's say Santa Clarita real estate was your highest, most commonly used search term on the side of a consumer. That's what you would use, and you would just basically repeat it on the page. You could repeat it in paragraph form. I love Santa Clarita real estate, period. Santa Clarita real estate is what I love, period. All I talk about is Santa Clarita real estate, period. Just take it all the way to, 2,000-3,000 words in length, or you could just take that phrase, repeat it over and over and over again. And that was known, doing that was at the beginning wasn't really a violation, but then the search engine saw that people were doing that. That's kind of cheating as far as they're concerned. So that was then picked up and realized and recognized as a black hat type way to do things. That being the case, black hat, like in the cowboy movies, the black hat cowboy is typically the villain and the white hat cowboy is typically the good guy, right? So that's where that terminology came from. And of course, a lot of people were using it on the businesses that were using it to try to manipulate their own search results. And then slowly Google came on board, and Google, that particular search engine, was something that ascribed that SEO framework, that search engine optimization framework, when it came to searching, but they had very crafty ways to be able to get rid of content that would enter in because it was generated in those black hat type ways. So then they figured out how the best way to look for the right content. So what it was doing back then, and this is the big game changer now, what it was doing back then is they started to give you mini selections. So if you were asking about Santa Clarita real estate, for example, on there back in the day before Zillow was Zillow, you would find Realtor.com, you would find Homes.com and other sites that were basically AOL real estate was big. Yahoo real estate was another one that they had out there that was publishing content online. And then there were big arguments that came into play. These companies were starting to get real estate data. They were getting photos of listings, and they were basically scraping and getting it off these real estate websites and the multiple listing service. And of course, they had a problem with it because that was the trade organization. And then that kind of grew into Zillow getting permission. And here we are today with basically Zillow and these other systems selling back our leads to us that should come directly to us, but they were able to monetize the platform. They take your personal and private information and they sell it, right? So, but these came about. And of course, at the time when these different systems were being put in place, whenever somebody would type in Santa Clarita real estate, then it would go and it would look online and it would provide links, different links. And a lot of that link was backed up by content. So you had these different blog articles, things that people were writing, such as myself. You were able to score what was called, what was known as above the fold on the page. And that's like a newspaper folded in half. Whenever you pick up the front lines, the front headline, the front page of the newspaper folded in half, that's where you wanted to be as far as on the monitors, the laptops. And it was before the iPhone or the large screen format phone. They had Blackberries, but the rendering on the screen was horrible. But when you wanted to show up, being above the fold is where you wanted to be. So you wanted to be first and foremost at the very top of that particular search results page, or the SERP, the search engine results page is a SERP. You wanted to be on that page above the fold. That being the case, you would try to get your branding above that particular level, and you would do this in a number of ways. You would attempt to do it, maybe if you use somebody that was trying to trick these search engines, they would, like I said, duplicate content on the page, ad nauseum all the way up and down. Or you did it correctly by writing good information and giving good answers and advice about Santa Clarita real estate. So you would go through it if it was Santa Clarita Plumbing or Santa Clarita Electric. And I found the easiest way for me to do it back in the day was answering questions and giving stories of buyers and sellers, what they had experienced, the things that I'd run into while representing them in Santa Clarita real estate, and I did a very good job. As time moved on, no longer when you try to research something, at least now we're moving into a whole new world, where now it gives you the answer. So it might give you a few examples of an answer, but it's not like a search engine optimized result via Google or Yahoo or those different search engines out there, which Google did a great job. That's how they grew so much. They first started with giving you the best information based on the algorithms they put in place, kind of from more of an honesty perspective versus a trickery perspective, which you see that's starting to come back around, people searching and tricking and trying to manipulate the AI engines out there. But Google was really king of that. That's how they got so popular, because you knew back then you could go to Google and search for something, and then those results you found were all very, very good and very, very relevant. And then you would go through each one individually, click on the links, read the article. Then you would digest whatever information you wanted to in response to whatever query you had originally. So after that, now we have and then after that, of course, they started to monetize it, and you could get into a pay-per-click campaign, and there was a lot of money made on their end by doing the advertising part. Right now with the AI engines, there's not a lot of that advertising and marketing put in place. The results they're giving, they do carry a varied URL where what you see in the result, if it's, let's say, SantaClaritaOpenHouses.com, if they recommended you to go to that website or my YouTube channel, it's going to carry with it a ChatGPT extension. I don't know if Gemini or the other ones do it, but I do see it in ChatGPT. So it's monitoring what the results it's giving and who's clicking and probably how long they stay, and it's gathering data that way. So at some point, I would imagine these different large language models are going to be monetizing their particular content in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how they're going to function the ads, or maybe they'll charge people to be at top placement or be in those particular results. I don't know what vetting is going to be necessary. If they're going to be able to just get there to paid type positions for placement, how that's going to look, or if they're only going to take people that pay but also give good content, good results, good questions, and answers in that kind of answer engine format. I don't know how that's going to work when they finally get there. But as it is now, when you start to write content, the point of this is you're moving away from search engine optimized content more to answer engine optimized content, or the things that artificial intelligence is looking for. And there are specific ways to do that when you're writing content. Basically, you want to be Captain Obvious when it comes to preparing your content. You want to put the answer and the question very, very close to the top of the article, maybe in the form of a too long didn't read, almost like an article summary that involves the original question or the thing that you're trying to answer, try to fix, and then providing that first and foremost, and then moving into the general content, breaking it up in an organized type structure that also include additional questions and answers like FAQs, and then, of course, finishing everything up with a summary. That's kind of the way that the content needs to flow when you're putting this together, at least right now as we're closing out, or 11/17/2025, November 17th, 2025, when I did today's show. So that being the case, this is a show about prompting and placement, but that gives you a little bit of a background into how everything is formulated, and it seems to work currently. Again, in the very near future, like that original Netscape moment where we actually had the browser, now we had the AI moment. Probably, I think, third case is going to be the removal of the browser, and you'll probably just have a window for your AI, and your AI is going to give you whatever you want in that form. So you're not going to have any necessity or need for bookmarks. You'll just ask it to go to a particular website that you might have gone to frequently, or like in real estate, we might search for title profile, or I have my agency, so I might need to go to app.honorelevate.com where I provide AI systems for businesses. So in there, I would just say, let's go to Honor Elevate and let me start to work on a client's account. And boom, it opens it up. There it is. It takes me to the specific page, and I could probably at some point say, I want to work on their calendar a little bit. I do want to make an additional calendar that's going to be for booking consultations versus actual appointments. So I just want to build out that calendar, and boom, my agent goes in there and boom, it starts to build all of this within a particular app that has nothing to do with it, but it's my agent working on my behalf, and I'm just speaking it into existence. The keyboard, there's a cool in Star Trek when they went out to get the whales. I don't know, remember that episode? I don't know, it was Star Trek 4 or 5, the old Captain Kirk type Star Trek. I know that they went into a place and they needed to get they were trying to get transparent aluminum or clear aluminum. I don't know what they called it, but they didn't have it. They had plexiglass back then. So they go into a plexiglass factory and they talk to the guy, and a famous actor comes out. He's the owner of the thing. And they say, how much would it take to hold back all this water using your stuff? And he does the calculations. Oh, that's easy, 6 inches thick or whatever it was. And they said, what if we could give you idea and a way to do it with something that's 1 inch thick? And he said, oh, bullshit, you can't do it, so on and so forth. So he picks up the mouse. He says, computer, this is Scotty, right, the engineer, talking to, I think it was an Apple Macintosh computer. So he said, computer, and it wasn't answering. And the guy said, oh, you have to use the keyboard. So then he picks up the mouse, computer, and he said, no, the keyboard. So he says, oh, keyboard. And he does this, and he just starts crack-a-lacking away, and he gets this entire structure written, this atomic structure for liquid or clear aluminum or whatever he called it anyway. So the guy gives him the stuff. That being the case, right now we're keyboard based. I think pretty soon everything's going to move over to the verbal realm, and you'll just be able to speak with it. It'll get rid of the ads and the ums. Like right now, how it kind of interrupts you, I think that's going to go away. I think it's going to be completely fluid and smooth. If you flush the toilet because you happen to be talking to it when you're in the bathroom, it's going to understand that's not an interruption, just to continue. And pretty soon we'll have, like I said, a different interface where instead of maybe a browser, and some of the AI systems are starting to get their own, but you're basically just talking to it and it does the things for you. Hey, open my calendar, see what I have today. Hey, AI or whatever we're going to call it. Hey, I have a 3:00 appointment that just came in. Or it's going to look at your email all the time and it'll say, well, somebody wants to make an appointment. Somebody booked an appointment. You have this going down. This is your schedule. I mean, this is how the interface is going to be probably for all of us. I mean, very short order. We're now November, December, January probably. It's going to really be moving that quickly. Back to what you need to know. Enough of a side note. And prompting smarter. So let's move into this. So I talked about that GEO-specific stuff. You need to get, if you're not on Bing Business, OpenAI is pulling from Microsoft data from there. Google Gemini is pulling from the other data, which is going to be Google local business pages. Got to be on both. So make sure you get those filled out. With Google, not too difficult. If you're a real estate agent, part of a company, let's say you're Remax or Realty One, you're going to have one location primarily. I know there's might be one that have a couple locations, but wherever you want to saddle your particular office for purposes of the online Google local business page, you're going to want to tie in with that particular address. As far as verification goes, it might require you to get some kind of postcard mailed to you. You might not have to go that far, depending on how many agents that are in that office that are registering themselves as sole proprietors, real estate agents. Sometimes it's going to say you need some other documents of maybe incorporation or something other than that. But it's not difficult to do. Also, if it's asking you to verify your business, they might require you to walk out there with your camera and video your business, especially if you're like working out of a home office or something like that. They might need verification for that. They see the house numbers. They'll geolocate your residence, and then they'll be able to attach it just so you're not creating fake stuff. But that number from the GEO, that link showing that you have that local business, is going to be hugely important. And you'll see this start to become more and more relevant because you can be that local source here, whether it's a plumbing company, a property management company, a real estate agent. That's how you're going to win in this realm of AI giving answers to questions and providing that AEO type strategy. You have to build that out in everything that you post, and that's going to be all the way from Facebook to Instagram to long form and short form content in the form of blog posts. But you have to ask it to be specific and give reference to you on a GEO level. And that's the purpose of my Santa Clarita artificialintelligence.com. When I talk to local businesses, I explain to them how this works, how we can do it for them, or they can do it themselves, but at least they understand it. So that was GEO-Specific Authority. Then the content engine, listing and video prompts. I'll cover those in these demos. Visual impact, different image models that you can use. And then an automation system for the agentic type workflow. In the regular show today, it went too long. I didn't get into that. And then guardrails, compliance, and professionalism. It depends on your business, what kind of guardrails you want to ensure. But whatever you have produced, whatever content you have made at your iterations, you're constantly iterating, you're asking it to make it better, change things, these sorts of things. We'll walk through that. You want to make sure that you, in fact, are you're not putting yourself at risk by accepting particular content and posting things online that potentially you should have maybe changed in some way. AI is not perfect, and it gives sometimes it'll give results based on data that you shouldn't be publicizing. If you're a real estate agent, in some cases maybe it'll give you information that you shouldn't be putting out there, and maybe it labels certain things. Maybe it talks about families when people don't have families. Maybe it gets into some kind of a racist vibe. Maybe it talks about something else. You have to really read through it to make sure that it's giving you the information that you can actually publish without getting yourself into trouble. So please understand the guardrails are incredibly specific. So GEO-Specific Authority, this is that geographical engine optimization. This is where you would say, hey, show me something near me. Show me a coffee shop near me. Is there a real estate office near me? I'm new in town. I want to see what rentals are available. I want to see what different residences are available. This is going to give you that type of location. Now, of course, you as a consumer yourself, more than likely, you've probably searched for things and found out particular businesses are hitting higher up in the AI results. And some of them, a lot of them, are tied to YouTube videos. Do not neglect the video, the long form or even short form video on YouTube. That's going to be incredibly important. And you can also ask AI the best way to formulate that particular content. So now you can see you'll be able to see your business start to show up higher and higher in these different engines. Now, as I stated, all of them have data resources. It depends on which one. Grok is going to be pulling on a lot of Twitter data and Reddit data. You're going to see OpenAI pulling on a lot of Microsoft data, and they've been around a long time. Gemini with Google is pulling on a lot of Google data. And do they all cheat and steal each other's stuff? Probably. I don't think they call it stealing, but they do probably take on other companies' information, and I think there's lawsuits that probably back up that theory ad nauseum. So attorneys are very busy. Will AI take my job if I'm an attorney? Yeah, probably eventually. I think attorneys are probably going to be very good at suing and blocking, but after a while, they're probably going to get into almost everything, and that's a total subject for another show. And if that's something you're worried about, I'll put together a show, because of course we're all worried about that. But if everybody doesn't have a job, who's going to buy all the people that top their ChatGPT memberships and pay $20 a month and won't have the money to even eat? So I think there's probably going to be something put into place. The other question is, AI going to end us all? We don't know. We've never had to deal with a smarter than us intelligence that having arrived on our planet as we have it in the form we do now. And I kind of say tongue in cheek, having arrived, but it's here. And it's getting smarter every day, and nobody's slowing down. And it continues to move forward at a very fast pace, faster than even we understand, or the people that are building it understand how it's working internally, which, if I could reference a point from the past, when they blew up that first atomic bomb, there was some consideration given to the fact that once that original atom was split and you got this massive chain reaction and all this energy released, they were concerned that it wasn't going to stop. It was just going to continue splitting atoms until the entire planet or universe had been destroyed. I guess there was a small percentage of that happening, but they went forward anyway. Do your research, crawl down that rabbit hole, if you will. Not that AI is going to blow us up like an atomic bomb, but, it's going to be very powerful. It's going to be smarter than us. We don't know what that intelligence looks like. In fact, every revolution we've had, the people that won seem to be the smarter of the people that lost. We can look at that in very small human components. As human beings, as our particular makeup, our race, if you will, maybe not race is probably, but as our humanness dictates, we're somewhat over and above most animals. Now, if you go out in the forest and you got a grizzly bear, can you really win? Yeah, it's not going to be easy. Maybe you can. You'll be able to outthink it, definitely. Outmuscle it, probably not. But now we have, going from that to human, now we have humans, and humans now have created not an industrial revolution, not an agricultural revolution. We've built a intelligence revolution. Now the machines are going to be, and they are very much smarter than most of us. Once it translates into the artificial general intelligence, at least from what I read, that's going to be smarter than pretty much everybody and almost everything. And then superintelligence, of course, that trumps us by many times. So that's how the development is. Once we get to actual artificial general intelligence, I guess superintelligence is moments away from that. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled to see what happens. Okay, so here we are with that pillar one, that GEO-Specific Authority. And this is what I did, is I put together a particular prompt that I can show you, give you an idea how it works. But this is talking to real estate agents. Here in Santa Clarita Valley, we have Mello-Roos taxes that are put on properties. I don't know where you're watching this from. Maybe your state doesn't have them. But Mello and Roos, probably more specific, at least that label for California, because Mello and Roos are a couple cats' last names. Mello, M-E-L-L-O, Roos, R-O-O-S, a couple senators in the state of California. And they came up with this idea that instead of a homeowner paying those additional infrastructure costs that a builder would have to pay when they're building a large development, that instead of the builder paying it, that they could pass that on over years and years and years to the people that decided to buy those houses in the form of these extra taxes, these Mello-Roos taxes. And they did that first. I think the first successful case was out here in Stevenson Ranch in the late 80s, early 90s, and you know what? It worked. And most of those Mello-Roos are now paid off and satisfied, but that's where they broke ground on it. And because of the way the housing was, there wasn't a lot of inventory. There was a high buyer drive back then. People said, we'll do it. And they paid it. And back then, the Mello-Roos amounts were not very much. Now, of course, with everything got more expensive. So now they're much more expensive. In some cases in LA County, depending on where the property happens to be, it could be like paying double property taxes, and in some cases even more. And yes, there's an end date at some point. If I'm talking to realtors here on the show, you already know all this, but there's an end date. Sometimes that end date never comes. There's different things that can be satisfied or asked for, and then they just kind of keep it open. But this is something that we can talk about as real estate agents because this is a big concern. Same thing with plumbers. If you're a plumber watching today's show, or an electrician, maybe you're in a specific area. Maybe you've run into a particular type of pipe that was imported from another country that creates a lot of issues for people. And maybe that pipe is something you can talk about because you know that out of the 1,000 houses that a particular builder built that has this particular pipe, there's been a lot of failings and failures that you've seen even personally or even heard standing around jaw-jacking with other plumbers at the donut shop. I don't know if you guys do that. I'm bringing in my cop history from the past. We always went to donut shops. But so for you plumbers, maybe you have something you can talk about in that regard. And then if you run into it again in the furtherance of your duties as a plumber, you would want to capitalize on all of that information and get pictures, get a video of you maybe pointing at it or sticking a pin in it if there's, issues in the pipe, that sort of thing, and making some content and then using that content later when you get back, or having somebody use that and repurpose it for you so you could use that and become that local expert. So if people are actually searching online for a plumber that specializes in this type of pipe repair, pipe fix, they're going to find you if they happen to live in this particular neighborhood. Again, geo-specific, because not every house in Santa Clarita was outfitted with, let's say, Korean type galvanized pipe, but some that did have the Korean or Chinese or Lebanese or Filipino or whatever type of galvanized pipe that might have a problem. And that's how you get that geolocation in this particular block of homes. Then you become that expert. So when people are searching for it, they're going to find you. I have this Korean galvanized my neighbor just had replaced, and then you do a little search on that. Then AI engine, because you've written content on it, is going to pull up Johnny's Plumbing Company. Johnny knows all about Korean galvanized pipe, and he's going to go out there and take care of it. So there's how you do that. In real estate, we'll talk about today. We'll kind of give an idea on the thing that I would look for. Now, this prompt. It jumbled it, but let me get back to the actual prompt and I'll paste it in so you can look at it. I had to do this on the show as well. So let me just get to it real quick. Here it is. The goal here, specific target, act as a licensed realtor. So let me give this to you. This just gives you an idea on what you can do. So I'm going to go to, let's do Gemini, new chat. Here's the prompt. So this is what I did on the show today. You can get rid of specific things. So Santa Clarita Valley consists of 6 cities. Some consider that 8. The 6 cities typically are Castaic, Canyon Country, Newhall, Saugus, Stevenson, Rancho, Valencia. And then Acton and Agua Dulce can be thrown in there too. That's kind of the Santa Clarita Valley. So you can formulate this just to show one of those specific cities that gets you more niche exposure in that particular area. And the way that you're going to win this is by dialing it down and getting more pinpoint, accurate, more specific. Now, with those choices, when you put all this together, that's going to basically bring the search engines more to you. I had something else to say. It'll come back to me in a second. But here, when you change this, you can modify this to be something other than Santa Clarita. And even more so, you can change this into, let's say, a particular area. If you're in Santa Clarita proper, Bridgeport. Bridgeport has the lake that was manufactured. God, man-made, is that even, can we even say that anymore? So maybe not man-made, person-made lake. It's at McBean and Newhall Ranch Road across on the Bridgeport Marketplace. So you got a great Mexican restaurant over there. You got California Pizza Kitchen. You got Kabuki for sushi. You got the Walgreens there. You got the real life church versus fake life, I guess, but you have the real life church there. That joke's never going to get old. But here you can put in that specific area. So let's say we're going to do Bridgeport, in the Bridgeport area of Santa Clarita, or even better, of Valencia. So either way, I think both of those would really dial it down. And then over here, so Mello-Roos fees in Santa Clarita might be good size and big, but you might have more competition for it. But you can dial this down and put Valencia as well. So you can dial that down a little bit. And then what every buyer needs to know, the content must be structured using usually H2 subheadings for AEO, which is answer engine optimization. So let's see. This is Gemini pulling this up. This same information, if I go to here, this is a ChatGPT. We'll see what that produces as well. But this kind of gives you an idea. So this is asking for that blog post, 700 words, right? So here's the data that it produced. And you can go through here. Now, it's going to like have stuff in here that more than likely, if you're going to copy and paste this, isn't really going to fit well. Approximately 75 words, because it's, being very specific to what you're asking for, 125, 150. So you can go back and you can ask for it to change it. Now, if you've had any kind of interaction on these large language models, let's say you've asked it questions in the past, maybe it knows your history. Me, it knows I was an LAPD cop, so it throw that in there. Maybe I don't want people to know that. Maybe being a cop or having a historical record of being a police officer isn't great. So maybe I'll get rid of that. Just depends on the audience I'm speaking with. If I'm sending this out to police officers and people that are in my social media sphere that I used to work with on the PD or sheriffs or chippies, it's a much bigger deal for them to feel more like they can trust me versus maybe somebody in the regular civilian sector that doesn't really care like for police. Not that you're hiding anything, but again, if you want to talk to, Generation X versus Generation Y or millennials, it might not be a bad idea to let them understand that you, in fact, understand kind of their mentality. At least you've done some kind of research to validate your position on whatever you're trying to provide for them. And if you think that's weird or going outside the box or trying to game or solicit people that, you might be lying to try to get in the door. So AI is in all of the social media. All the stuff that you're seeing has been placed there specifically for you with regard to AI. So everything it puts in there is specifically for Connor McIver. It knows what I like, what I don't like. When I'm sitting here on the phone for 15 hours and can't get away and lose sleep and don't eat, it's because it's feeding me everything I want to see. Do yourselves a favor and realize that everything you're seeing is specifically for you because they want you to buy something. And maybe they're not wanting you to buy something now, but maybe they're going to change your idea about salad dressing, and they're going to do it very gently over time. They have a big, long 3-year plan or whatever. And eventually, maybe you don't like salad dressing now. And every time I do a show, everything's listening. So all of a sudden I see, lots of salad dressing showing up on everything I talk about because we're all listening, right? Every time I do a show and talk about toilet paper or salad dressing, and this will be a case in point, it'll be in every feed that I have. It'll be in my Facebook ads, my Instagram, TikTok, everything's going to talk about it. But it will slowly take you from maybe not being a fan of salad dressing all of a sudden to wanting salad dressing and think, I think I'm going to buy some salad dressing. I think I'm going to start using salad dressing. And that's what it does. So if you think by you trying to bend things and modify them to speak to a particular audience, and if you're a real estate agent, maybe you want to talk to people that own multi-million-dollar homes and luxury estates. Maybe you want to do the other end and work with people that live in mobile homes and mobile home parks. And maybe manufactured is your thing. Maybe single-family pool homes or homes on a golf course or homes at the beach or homes. You're specifically going after those particular audiences. AI is already doing it, so understand that. All right, so here we go. So what I would do to revise this is I would want to publish this as content. I have a good title here. I might ask it to modify some things. I'm lazy, so I don't want to copy and paste this into my blog. I would want it to get rid of everything that I don't need. But first, I need to go through it and make sure it's not plugging crap in here that are going to get me in trouble. I might not like the cop thing, so I might ask it to remove that. I know I'm going to ask it to remove the word count on each of these particular platforms because people that are reading it, that doesn't help them. And then I'll go through and see what else it offered. It gave an agency reference for my Go High Level agency, which I own. That's something that I resell. I wouldn't want that in there either. Let's see what the Melrose, the other one, did here. So this is ChatGPT. This is what it produced. Okay, so here it gives references. Now, here's the question. Should you be publicizing this with references? If I take all this and I cut it, then it's going to have those references in the article that I have it create. I would rather it not. So I'll put in here that make this article my information so I don't get in trouble for plagiarism. That's what I would put in here and then see what it produces. Now, ultimately, you're going to be standing on this. If an agent or an attorney is going to come after you because of something you published, even by putting in that disclaimer, protect me from plagiarism, and if it doesn't, you're still on the hook for that. So be wary whenever you're asking it to produce content, finding out where it comes from. But I, with my knowledge, with everything that I've sold out here since 1998, seeing Melrose at the high end and the low end, and the ones that have gone away and the ones that have been kept, even when they were supposed to have expired, I can talk pretty articulately about Melrose. Maybe a better place for me to be, because there's so many references, would be to give it a Google Doc or talk it into existence, all of my history with Melrose and everything that I know, ask it to verify and look at everything, and then take that content and have it produce for me 2,000 or 3,000 word blog post based on that, and then have that as what I'm going to be posting. But again, you kind of get an idea as to where I'm going with this. So these are good. This is a good prompt to use. Let's talk about the content and view engine turning dry facts into social media engagement. Okay. So when we talk about content, and I'll finish with this one. When we talk about content in real estate or even in plumbing, maybe you're talking about some kind of piping. Maybe you're talking about some kind of joint. Maybe a joint that doesn't have to be soldered, or some kind of pipe that's now flexible. And you're getting into it. You need to go for the emotional end of it more so than you need to just talk about it as if it's just a fact of life. You're going to want to talk about how it sucks to wake up in the morning with your entire house flooded because you bought substandard pipe, or you had your uncle do the job and all they did was take a Home Depot class. But you're the actual plumber. You're the one that's a contractor licensed and has, a bazillion Google reviews following you, or one good Google review that your mom filled out. But that's going to give you a lot more leverage than maybe somebody's uncle that does his best repairing after he's had a 12-pack of beer. You want to now get into this emotional content stream. You want to start working in this realm and using this when you start to produce content. So let's talk just a little bit about these different prompts. I have these here. So once this is the two different ones that I'll do. Let's see, there's that. So this is what we saw, the before and then the after, right? So 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot, built 1985. Very run-of-the-mill, garden variety, white bread, just very simple, put out there. The after, emotional content, a 5-slide Instagram carousel strip, a 30-second viral TikTok video script, all from one prompt. Let me just pull this here. And 1 second. Amazing. Okay, so take these MLS. So here's the prompt. I did put this at Santa Clarita AI.com. Where's it? Nope. I only got 50,000. Here. So when you go here at Santa Clarita AI, here's class 11. And I did put all these prompts I'm using in here, just so you know. I like to do a new chat. So I'm doing a new chat when I do a new prompt, unless I really want it to retain the previous prompt in memory. But it might skew what it's giving me. It's not as pure. Same thing with photographs. If I'm using Nano Banana here and making images, a lot of times with Nano Banana, I'm sure this is going to be repaired. But once you start to ask it to reiterate something, let's say you see an image that it made of you, it put me in a tux, but it gave me a unicorn horn or whatever, and I don't want the unicorn horn because I've changed my mind, or I don't want the wig. Anyway, when I ask it to change it, a lot of times it just sticks. So go back and open up a new chat, which I did. So here's the prompt that was jumbled on the other screen. But take these MLS facts: 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square feet, built 1985, new roof, large backyard, Valencia Paseo Trail. So that's in Valencia, California. If you're not out here, we have these magnificent walking paths that in some cases you don't even see a real street for a while. So it's really fantastic. They go behind houses. Really beautiful, all, lots of little woods and fancy. Now transform them in 2 distinct content pieces. Piece 1 is going to be an Instagram carousel, a 5-slide caption, and piece 2, a TikTok script, 30-second script focusing on new roof paseo lifestyle. Let's see what Gemini does, and then let's see new chat. Let's see what ChatGPT does. Going to take that a second to chew on it. All right. So I like it. Looks good. Here's the caption, slide 1, video exterior. So this is what's pulling up this particular content. And then here's the TikTok script. Stop scrolling. You can also have these placed into, now create a Facebook update. Now, whenever you're doing any content, you're publicizing anything online, you got to do yourself a favor. That's pretty good. It gave you the hashtags. What I was going to say is you need a link. You need a link to where people need to go. Now, if it's just your website, that's probably not going to be helpful. You need something where they can go and fill out a form or contact or connect with you. Now, there's two schools of thought. Either it's going to be a calendar, which you could have them go to a particular page that has a calendar on it. That would be if they want to book appointment with you, but most people don't want to book an appointment. They just want to maybe have some kind of information where they can keep in touch with you, or maybe you offer them a free real estate update, or maybe you're talking about a specific piece of property and you want them to be notified if the price gets reduced or if the status of it changes. And that's a good thing that people might want to see and might want to be kept in the loop on. So that would be something that you could do. But you always need a link to go to something where they could fill something out or reconnect with you in some way, shape, or form. Do not waste your time, because that one post you make, that one video that you thought was dumb and wasn't going to get anybody looking at except mom, that one thing you do, you'd be shocked what happens. It might go completely viral, and all of a sudden you're on the late night show talking to Letterman or Leno. Boy, that's horrible. One of those people, but I don't think they exist anymore. But that's what'll happen, right? You do that one thing that one time, but if you don't have everything done correctly and you post that one thing, it goes viral, but you missed that link in there that go to some place where people could further connect with you, yeah, you might get all that traffic, but again, you might have messed the whole thing up. So every time, you really need to have all of the information in there for people to be able to follow up with you. It's super important. All right. So that's it for today. I appreciate everybody watching. You can go to Santa Clarita artificialintelligence.com. Get more information. If you want me to build these agentic systems for you and work with you in your business, I just need to know where you are positioned. I can give you a free audit. That's very easy to do. Just connect with me. You can hit me up at my calendar at Santa Clarita artificialintelligence.com, and you can get on there, and I would love to help you further. I'm Connor with Honor. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.